10, 9.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio.
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this January 13th, 2020 evening. And Chris, we are once again into the heart of 2020, the new decade, and bodybuilding will be carrying on, I guess, for another 10 years or so. But the I guess you could say the great part about January when we do these shows is that there's nothing really going on that is so dire that we must absolutely talk about, like this contest or who placed here and there. It gives us an ability to talk about like the past and the history of bodybuilding.
The gossip's still
gossip a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. I like this. I think a lot of the fans like these shows too, but I like to talk about, weird, interesting stories and stuff like that. I was talking to Psycho Lewis the other day, Chris Psycho Lewis.
Yeah.
And I asked him, we're kind of friendly. And, we always check in with each other every once a week or so. And I said, Chris, what the hell? How'd you get kicked out of Gold's Gym? He got kicked. Him and Cormier also got kicked out of Gold's. And both of them give me the same answer. They say it's because of Charles Glass. I don't know if that's true or not, but Charles runs that gym.
It's crazy.
I don't know. I said, I said, you were training Roden. What happened? He goes, I was driving 75 miles each way to train Roden for the Olympia.
Yeah, that's true.
And I said, well, you guys won the Olympia together. So what happened?
What did he say?
He said, I wanted money from Shawn, moving forward. I thought it was only fair. And I guess Charles trains a lot of the top guys for free because it's, it's a good promotion for his business. Mm. At least that's what I'm being told, by Chris. And Psycho went on vacation to Mexico. He came back, went to the gym, Gold's Venice in the morning, and Tito Raymond comes up to him. Tito is Jose Raymond's brother. Tito's been there for 30 years training people?
Yeah, about 20, 25, maybe 20.
Good
20,
trainer, great guy. Yeah. He's just like Jose.
They're
solid, cool guys. And he's like, Chris, what are you doing in the gym? He's like, what do you mean, what am I doing? I work here. He goes, not anymore, you don't. He goes, what are you talking about? He thought he was busting his balls. He goes, you didn't hear what happened? He goes, I've been in Mexico. What do you mean? No one told me anything. He's like, they kicked you out. What do you mean they kicked me out?
But they didn't tell him.
They didn't tell him. Tito told him.
It's like Laurie Granis at Twin Labs.
Right.
You come in on Monday morning and you go to your desk and it's physically not there anymore.
Yeah, so he's of the belief that that Charles didn't want him in the gym. I don't know if that's true or not, but evidently I guess Shawn and Dexter went back to Charles after they had left and he was training both of them, and that's the gossip story. Which is kind of sad. I feel bad for Chris in a sense, but that's
who owns Gold's Gym these days?
Think about it though. If you think about it, Chris, like Gold's Venice has got to be like the mecca, not only of bodybuilding, but the mecca of personal training. Like the Charles Glass might be the first personal trainer of all time, and he might be the king of personal training at the number one gym in the world, right? So
well, when I got to Gold's in around 87, 88.
He was there, right?
He was already there he was there with tons of clients. Tons.
No one even knew what personal training was back then, right?
No. It was back then there was still Gold's. At Gold's, what made it interesting is nobody knew maybe in New York, where you were, Massachusetts, where I was, but Gold's Venice was just full of personal trainers, which was
have to believe that's where it started.
Yeah, because I used to be like, when I got there, what do they do? And then people used to make really good money all the way back then.
Well, because it was a novelty, and Ed never took a dime from those trainers.
No,
he let them keep all the money. He charged them like a couple $100 rent, I think, at the end. When he's, but they were.
I think if you were, a good bodybuilder and you could make a business card and put up on the bulletin board in Golds at Venice, you could get clients, and Ed could kill less.
Ed thought it was good for the business, for the gym. Like, he thought like it was going to attract more people, the bodybuilders training people in the gym,
Yeah.
And it was true, but and maybe he probably didn't see the future of how popular it was going to become at the time, because some gyms make more money from personal training than they do from actually memberships, because the memberships now are like, Gold's Gym is an exception, but most gym memberships are $10 a month now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be I can remember paying in Massachusetts, like when I was at college, I think $300 a year. People thought that was cheap.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
I remember when remember there was a club called the Vertical Club in Manhattan?
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, beautiful. All the wannabe like movie
models,
movie stars, and people who wanted to find rich husbands would go there, and it was like $100-something a month, right?
Yeah, we were just talking about our paths not crossing, even though we crossed everywhere the same. In other words, I'd been to the Vertical. How'd you get into the Vertical Club?
I just know of the Vertical Club because I was working for Bally's at the time. This is right after I left medical school. And Bally's had acquired the Vertical Club, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And
I do remember.
It was going to be like their marquee location. And I had heard about the Vertical Club before that, because when I was in medical school, my friends, Jesse...
had the craziest reputation.
Well, listen, my friend Jesse's, his father was a lawyer. And they wanted to get the daughter, find her a rich husband. So the daughter was living in the city, so they bought her a membership to the Vertical Club. And he was like, yeah, my parents spent $1,500 a year for the year. I'm like, what? $1,500? I said, that was unheard of back then, right? For a year's gym membership. He's like, she's got to go there because, there's that's where all the famous people are. Matter of fact, she actually got a part in Goodfellas from going there, because they were casting it in the city, and they were looking for people in the background scene. I think they had a scene at the I forget what club it was at. It was when he went to where would they pull? Remember they took him in the back door. What was that club? I can't remember now. But she got into the movie through there because they came to the Vertical Club and they were looking for like really good looking people and stuff. So so when Bally's bought it, and I had heard, and my friend was a district manager, he's like, "Oh, you want to come to the Vertical Club?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I had heard about that. It's like a super crazy wealthy club." And
it's what, 8 floors? I think it was 8 or 10 floors. That's where the Vertical comes from.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because it's vertical up and down. And when you would drive through, and people didn't realize this, and like when you would drive through the Queensboro Bridge, because there's 2 bridges to get from Long Island into the city. You can take the Midtown Tunnel, which is when you're 22 years old, you don't do that because you don't want to pay the toll because you're cheap. If you don't want to pay a toll, you can go over the Queensboro Bridge, which is more traffic and it's a pain in the ass. But when you go over the bridge and as you're entering the city, you see the Vertical Club. It's like right in front of you, this big long building, and it's just kind of exquisite looking. And inside, it's gorgeous. It was insane. I mean, they really decked that thing out now. At the time,
it was all it was when Mick Jagger would be in New York, he'd go. Stallone would go.
All of them would go. Yeah.
Arnold would go. All the Wall Street people would go. Bianca Jagger would go. Janet Jackson would go. I'm trying to think of the people who either.
I think the rich people would go just to hook up with the hot girls that were working out there, because it was like you would look in a model shoot on the gym floor. It was crazy how decked out these girls were with makeup and hair done and crazy outfits on, right?
Yeah, it was insane. And they had good equipment too, even if you know what I mean.
They had the best.
The best. I mean,
I can't even imagine what the rent was there.
Diner in there,
can you imagine what the rent was in that place?
Oh my gosh! No, I have no.
Whoever built it had a pair of balls, because probably the break even was ridiculous, and they're probably like, "Well, we'll just charge $1,500 for membership." They're like, probably people thought they were crazy. No one will pay this.
Yeah, it was so ahead of its time. They used to charge. It doesn't sound like much then, but if you wanted to personal train, what was personal training fee back in In 88, it was 88, 98,
Probably $50 maybe.
Yeah, it was
right?
50 or 65.
Something like that. Yeah. Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
What a difference.
And what happened to it?
Well,
Bankrupt?
Bally's bought it, and then Bally's went bankrupt. So I don't know if it's still there and it changed names and someone bought it or something like that, or how that worked. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But I'm sure it got, they would have had to been redone, right? Because things get old. Even the nicest place, you have to remodel and get new equipment in and all that stuff. That was one thing that Ed always did great. They always had new equipment at Gold's in Venice, right?
They had
Because he must have had a deal. I think he had a deal with these equipment companies. They would use Gold's as the showcase.
Yeah.
So they would put a line of equipment in there, and then like a year later, they'd have another new line of equipment in there, taking its place. Nothing ever stayed there, right? It was always like new stuff coming in.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. Well, there was a few things that he wouldn't get rid of. That people always wanted.
Yeah,
some standard equipment.
The pullover machine, all the Nautilus machines, right?
Yeah.
Remember they had that whole room in Nautilus?
Well, they had that Arnold. Don't they still have that Arnold low cable row from when?
I think so. Yeah. They had an old hyperextension machine that I really liked, and I ran into the gym. I was so excited when I first got there, and I just started. I said, I got to do a set on this. I love this machine. It hits me perfect. It's like a double pad. I don't know if you remember it. You kind of put your legs between the double. Yeah. So I do my set, and I get off. My girlfriend at the time, Barbara, who was my ex-wife, she was laughing at me after. She's like, "You're a dummy." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "You took Lou Ferrigno's was using the machine." I'm like, "What?" I said, "Lou Ferrigno." I said, "He's like my hero." I'm like, "What do you mean? Where's Lou Ferrigno?" She's like, "He's over there. He's all pissed off. He's like cursing under his breath at you." I said, "I didn't know he was on here." I asked if anyone was using the machine. She's like, he's deaf. Don't you remember?
Oh, that's fine.
He's a lip reader. I said, "Oh my God." So he did a set, and I went up there. I said, "Lou, I'm sorry. I didn't notice that you were on this machine." He's like, "Oh no, okay." And I don't think I ever brought that up to him again. I was embarrassed by it, but it's funny that I became friends with Lou after that.
You feel like you had to speak slow or exaggerate your lip motion?
Yes, I said yeah. Because I was talking, made sure he heard my lips. He was cool. People have these terrible experiences with him. I never had a bad experience with Lou ever. Always very, very nice. Polite. He was just like another bodybuilder at the gym. He didn't think he was better than anyone else. Very down to earth with me, at least. Did you have any good experiences or bad experiences with him?
Well, I went to see him when I was 15 years old.
Oh, I think you told me that story.
Yeah, I told you the story. There was I saw a poster in my gym, the University of Southern Maine in Portland, and it said, "Lou, come meet the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno." So, and it showed him posing like a bodybuilding pose. And so they had this seminar, and it was $20, which was a ton of money in 1985. And I asked my parents, "Can I use the car?" I had a permit. I didn't even have a license. Can I use the car? My parents like, "Oh yeah, sure, go ahead." They trust me with.
Oh my God.
And me and my friend Howie Gribben drove down to Boston. No Google Earth, no.
We had a map.
We'll find it. Yeah, we'll find it. And we went to the gym, and there may be like 30, 40 people there, and he looked massive, and he had a black T-shirt on. I mean, when you're a kid, someone who's 205 pounds looks big. So he was probably like 260, so he looked like 900.
Right.
And so he had the giant pecs, the crazy round arms, big wide back, and he was wearing jeans, and he wanted to talk. I didn't know, but he wanted to talk about his movie.
Right.
And he didn't want to talk about bodybuilding, but he was in a gym.
What movie was he in?
He was in...
Was that the Hercules that they dubbed his voice?
The Hercules.
That they dubbed his voice. He didn't even speak in it.
Yeah. So, we went thinking that we were going to how do you do chest? How do you, and he was like, he wanted to talk about making movies and movie careers. So it was not the best experience for us.
Oh, he wouldn't even answer questions from you guys?
No.
Wow. That's funny. So you got a bad taste in your mouth after that.
Well, we wanted our money back. We asked someone for our money back, and they wouldn't give their money back. And I hadn't at that point at 15.
Whose gym was it at?
It was on. It was on Lansdowne Street.
It wasn't like Jimmy Dakota's.
I remember the address, Dave. I should Google Earth it. 9 Lansdowne. Because
I'm sure he charged a fortune for the gym for him to bring him out there. Because Lou had some seriously high demands. I remember when he would do his appearances.
I'm sure. I mean, $20 was probably like $120.
Oh yeah.
By comparison. So
poor Chris. Poor 15-year-old Chris.
We got back in my parents' Buick, and we turned around and drove back.
The funny thing was, I wouldn't even have cared. I just wouldn't want to see him. Did you take any pictures with him? Or did he try to charge?
No, we didn't take any pictures. There wasn't a desire to take any pictures after that.
Oh,
I was always like that. I was always snobby back people, even at that age. I would like, why even bother?
Right. Not to change the subject, but to change the subject. Shawn Ray posted this. People have been texting me and asking me what I think about this. I don't even know. Shawn Ray posted a picture, I guess, right at the beginning of the new year about something like. He said, walking into 2020 like a boss. And then he posted a clip from the movie 300 where, the Greeks fight the Persians. It's a whole, fictitious little made-up little, fantasy, movie, which I thought was kind of entertaining, whatever. He posted that. And I guess a lot of the Iranian, or as Kamali would call them, Persian fans, got very upset and felt that it was a dig at them, especially given the fact that, the U.S. had killed that leader of their country. And I don't know. What do you think about the whole thing? Do you think it was blown out of proportion? I mean, I know is it just wasn't the right time? Too soon type of thing.
What was Shawn's intention?
I don't know. I think it was just like to say, all right, 2020 is I'm gonna take over here. I'm coming and taking no prisoners.
Shawn is.
I guess so. The guy, put it this way, the guy.
In what field?
I don't know. I feel the guy promotes a million shows, so he's the new editor-in-chief of Digital Muscle.
Yeah.
It says that, and then the hashtags are like no surrender, no regrets, don't look back, take no prisoners, strength and honor, fire and fury.
I just go back to my lowest common denominator with him is he got you fired from MD. So I think that trumps anything
there you go.
that he's posting on Twitter.
Yeah, you're not giving him the benefit of the doubt.
No. Well, when Dallas McCarver died, didn't he?
Yeah, that was a poor taste. Yeah.
Whether he knows it or not, he made fun of it.
Yeah. It's a tough thing to deal with because we're so apolitical. You and I and most of the bodybuilding world is very apolitical. Some people have very strong opinions about the politics of what's going on in the world. I really don't give a shit, to be honest with you. And obviously, if you're Iranian, losing the leader of your country, in an airstrike, is obviously not something that is going to bode well with you, and it's not going to find humorous, obviously. So maybe everyone is very ultra sensitive about that. And I think that as, brothers in iron, we all have to be sympathetic to that almost. And we have to be empathetic to the fact that they're upset about that. And that maybe if the situation was reversed, we would feel the same way. Not that anyone's holding any American bodybuilders, responsible. Although one guy did send me an email saying, "You Americans," I said, "Well, listen. I didn't give the order to do anything here. Don't lump me with you Americans. It's the political agendas of the military leaders of the country, just like the bodybuilders, just like Hadi Chupin in Iran is not, a military leader there. He's just a bodybuilder, and that's why." We lobbied so hard for him to get into this country to compete at the Olympia, which it's a shame now because, I can't imagine them giving him another visa unless his visa is still good for another year. What do you think? You think we'll see him at the Olympia this year?
Not if things escalate. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because there's collateral damage with politics.
It's really, really sad. The whole thing.
You know, and I'm not apolitical. I would correct you. I'm not apolitical. Just that there's only so many fires you can fight.
Yeah. I understand, even though, you know, I'm not going to take a stance on the political maneuvers of our country because I don't really know. I don't really follow the politics that much, but I can empathize with the Iranian people because they feel, you know, so strongly about what happened. But so I don't know. I don't think that Shawn's intent was ill, but maybe it was mistimed. I think, and that's the problem. He could have picked a better clip. You know, he could have picked a better clip to illustrate his point.
Sometimes it's good to stay within the field that you know, rather than venture out into fields which you don't know about.
Yep.
You know, and that you know, the fields that people are most sensitive about are politics, nationality, race, and religion.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Those are the ones that, you know, any talk about that, people will, you know, tell you to shut up and just talk about bodybuilding.
Right. My aunt, my father's sister, who is a lot younger than my dad, I guess it was my son's birthday this past week, so she had said, "Oh, you know, happy birthday, Logan, 4 years old." And she's like, "Oh, we were looking at home movies we had at home.
Great age.
We saw there was a couple of scenes of you and your sister." I said, "Oh, so if you ever get a chance, you know, maybe you can screenshot them, whatever, you know, on your phone." So she sent me like these 3 little clips. They're like 2-second clips. I look so skinny in these videos. There's audio, but back then when people would shoot video, people today can't understand that. You froze up when they started shooting video. Everyone got very embarrassed and no one knew what to say because it wasn't like something you did all the time.
Common. Yeah.
So you just like you don't know what the fuck. They shove a camera in front of your face. You don't know what to say. So they just like, so what people would do is they would get these, they had these humongous, they look like the cameras on TV sets. They were huge. You had a shoulder harness to hold these things. They were so
Super 8. I think it was called, was it Super 8?
No, I don't know if this might be like the first like VCR video camera, but
we had one of those.
Remember they were big. They were huge camcorders, you know.
So, it was like, your 20th Century Fox camera.
Yeah.
You'd see those at Disney World.
That, you know, the Smalley brothers wanted me to get one of those old ones and come to like the Arnold with it and walk through the
because people think
you're important.
Yeah. The bigger the camera, right? The bigger the camera, the more important they think you are.
That's right. So what people would do is they would just take the video camera and they would walk around and just at like family, like, you know, Christmas and stuff like that, and they would just film. And they would just like scan around the room, which was ridiculous because it was so boring. Who the fuck? I want to hear people talk, but there was so few videos like this around because very few people had cameras because they were expensive. That I'll see anything. I want to see anything with me in it, right? That's from that long ago.
Yeah.
So I see myself sitting in a minute, like literally, I have to be like 140 pounds in these pictures. It must be in the like midst of my running, you know, days. And I was laughing my ass off. I'm like, holy mackerel. Was I thin?
Were you an eater then or not an eater?
I was able to eat, but I would starve myself because I wanted to be lean and thin as a runner because, you know, you're faster. You know, I'm an all or none guy. You know, if I'm going to be a runner, a long distance runner, I'm going to be skinny.
That's why,
I want to look like the Ethiopian guys. You know, I don't want to be fucking muscular because that's going to hold me back. You know.
That's why I get scared when you tell me, like, "Oh, I'm into baseball cards now." I'm like, "Oh God, here we go! World's biggest baseball card collector."
No baseball cards. Yeah, that can be a seriously addictive hobby. I'm sure.
I had a huge collection when I was a kid.
Me too. I still have them. I have them.
Do you? You know what? They've gone down in price.
I found them in my dad's basement. Yeah, I don't know what they're worth, but I have.
I sold my baseball card collection for $750 when I think I was 10. My father had lost his job.
Oh, really?
And I sold my baseball card collection, and I gave my parents the money.
Wow. What'd they say when you did that?
I don't know if they had invested it properly, like Apple. I mean,
did they really need it, or did you just did you internalize the fact that they needed the money, or did they actually really need the money?
Well, it felt like they needed it. You know what I mean? Things were like stressful.
Right. And they took the money from you too?
Yeah, they took the money from me.
Like my parents would have taken it and put it in a bank account. You know what I mean?
No, they took it. They took it.
Wow, that's
700
very unselfish act for you. I'm sure it killed you to do that too.
Yeah, I was going to say, so if we had put it.
Who had $700 that you knew at 10 years old that you could give your baseball
So
cards
what
to?
happened was we had a garage sale to raise money for the family.
Oh, okay.
And I had these baseball cards, and the only thing that I was Dave. You remember how you used to read every inch of the magazines?
Oh, I would like that with the cards too. I knew all the statistics of every player. Yeah.
I knew my sisters could say, like Dave Palumbo, I'd say third base, New York Mets,
And you give the
1960.
date and you give the batting averages, right?
I
How many
would.
home runs?
I would. And
RBIs.
nobody could stump me. No one could stump me in my family. I mean, I would study these baseball cards. My mother would go crazy because I'd be late for school, and she'd say, "What are you doing?" And I'm reading the statistics of baseball cards.
Reggie Jackson in 1977, he hit
3 home runs.
Well, I mean, they have the whole season.
44.
Stats. They'd be
He
like,
hit 44 in 1977. I'm serious. Look it up. Google it, Dave.
I believe you're right. I believe.
And then he had the 3 in the World Series that year.
Yeah.
And he used to play for the Oakland A's.
Right.
And they traded him. Ray Kroc traded him. The owner of McDonald's.
Oh, Ray Kroc owned the A's?
San Diego, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think it was Ray Kroc. And anyways, so I brought these baseball cards down to the garage sale, and my mother said, "What are you going to sell those for?" I said, $750.
Like you had a number. You figured them all out what they were worth?
Yep. And Dave, I'm dead serious. The garage sale started at 9. They were sold by 9:15.
Was it just like some guy?
Walked up. I had a price tag on them, $750. Some guy came up and said, "I'll take it," and he gave us $750 cash. He went back somewhere, wherever he went. 30 minutes later, he came back with the cash.
Wow. You know what the funny thing is? That was probably the highest item that they sold the garage sale.
I think we made like $800 total. We just had junk to sell.
Right.
I tell my kids all the time. I said my baseball. Not all the time, but I've told them about the baseball card story.
That is
a super collector.
Yeah, but think about it. You were so obsessed with them, and yet
I
that
was
was your most cherished item, and you gave it up for your family. I mean, think about that. That was a very unselfish act by you.
Yeah. And then I discovered bodybuilding, and that was it.
Yeah. Then you said, "Fuck my family. I'm leaving. I got to go to the fucking
Give me
gym."
the magazines to read so I can digest all these.
Right. That's a good story. That says a lot about you.
When I was probably, I don't know how old it was. Maybe I just figured out, like, I just got a weight set, maybe like 14. Someone gave me like a giant box of magazines.
Right. Like all the old ones, you mean?
Yeah. And I was like, see you in 3 months.
You read every one, I bet.
I read every, page 1.
I liked going through the old magazines. It was very nostalgic, and it was kind of cool to see all the old timers. Because think about it, people don't realize there was no internet to like go back and look at what old guys, the older guys look like. The only way you would actually be able to see it would be to find an old magazine,
Yeah, I can remember.
Or Joe Weider would sometimes he would republish like old articles and old pictures, right? I mean, training stuff like a barn and stuff.
Dave, what is sick is, okay, so this night, I'll tell you, this was when I was 14. I used to get Muscle Builder sent to my house, and I was pissed when they changed it to Muscle and Fitness.
Oh, really? Why was that?
Because I thought it was a pussying down of the magazine.
Which is what they did do.
And within 5 years, I'm in Joe's office working for him.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
It's insane.
Great. When I bought my first magazine, which was Muscle and Fitness, it was called Muscle and Fitness, actually. And I only bought it because I saw another kid in school who was getting big. I didn't know he was on steroids. This was in high school. I thought he was just eating a lot. I'd go to his house. He was taking 4,000 pills and vitamins and shakes and stuff like that. I'm like, Jeff, how the fuck are you getting so big? He's like, God, train every day. He's training arms. His fucking arms are huge. I'm like, what the fuck is this? He was obviously taking steroids. I didn't realize it. I didn't even know what steroids were, to be honest with you. But I was hooked after that. I started buying the magazines and reading them, and I didn't know what I was doing. And then I went to college, and I still trained, but I really wasn't into it that much because I was into the running. I didn't want to be big anymore. Because I had met a guy, he's like, look, you either have to be big and be a bodybuilder and take steroids, he goes, if you want to be successful, or you need to be a runner and be small and thin. Because that's going to make you faster. You're carrying around unnecessary weight. And he was right. The thinner I got, the faster I got to a point. And then I started overtraining too much because I was an extremist back then. I did find balance at some point in my bodybuilding career, which made me a good bodybuilder. And I thought bodybuilding was a much this is how deluded I thought bodybuilding was a much more balanced sport because it wasn't predicated on overtraining. You know what I mean? Like if you trained too much, you actually didn't grow as much. So it actually forced me to take days off, which I never did as a runner. And it actually made me feel better. I felt better about myself. I wasn't run down all the time and just like starving to death all the time. It balanced me out, even though then I got into steroids, obviously, which unbalanced me again. But initially, it really did balance me. I felt really good. I felt like, okay, I can eat 6 small meals a day. I train. I take a couple days off a week. It was like I almost was normal for a little bit, you know?
Yep.
And then, of course, you find steroids and you start, going nuts. But I think bodybuilding is good for people with eating disorders and people who are ultra extremists, because ultra extremism in bodybuilding does not equal success. It equals failure. So either direction, you don't do enough, you don't grow. You do too much, you don't grow. So
you got to have the Goldilocks approach.
That's right. Just right.
I tell you about running into 2 people in Maine in 2 different gas stations in 1 week who commented on the show.
What does everyone in Maine watch?
One guy said one guy came up to me and said, "Oh yes, hey Chris." I looked up and I could barely see through my glasses, and he said, "Oh, great show." I'm like, "What show?" You don't
even know what he's talking about at this point.
Yeah, I did, and then I realized he's like, the radio show, and I said, "Oh yeah, oh thanks." And another guy, I was making a coffee, and this guy goes, "Aceto, you and Palumbo suck." Without blinking a wink, Dave, I said, "F you," because I knew it was somebody who listens to the show. Yeah,
because they know that the inside joke is that I always tell people, tell me if you see me in public how much you hate the show. Don't tell me how much you love the show. Then I know you really listen to it. And so people love to do that. They always say, "Oh, I hate your show." Just kidding. just in case they think I don't get the joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you told me a great story. We were talking about you put on your Instagram a picture of Laura Creval, who's your ex-wife, like ultra crazy, nutty, shredded. What was that, at the 91 Olympia? And that was the year, we talked about this before, where they had it at the Shrine Auditorium and
sold out. 50 grand first prize.
50 grand. It was broadcast live on ESPN. They posted the scores up. The judges' scores were posted up on the jumbotron up there.
ESPN wanted it to be a 2-day show, which it was a 2-day show. They had it as a 2-day show, prejudging on a Saturday and
they was both broadcast live.
Live.
That's crazy. Live. So you had to actually come back on TV and watch the second part of it the next day. So it was the top 3 at the women's Miss Olympia and this is when the Miss Olympia was held on its own. They didn't have a men's Olympia with it.
Dude, it was sold out. They didn't have to have it. They didn't have to piggyback off the men.
Yeah, but everyone talks about that year, being Bev should have won the show. Bev Francis, she was first after prejudging, and then Linda Murray who's the reigning Miss Olympia. She came back and she wound up winning somehow. But really, third place was your ex-wife, Laura, was probably the leanest. Her and Bev were probably pretty close, but she was shredded, Laura. And she was Laura was always the fan favorite because they were always screwing her. And she would win the Arnold every year, and they would be like, "Oh, she's the uncrowned Miss Olympia." And so you tell me a great story after prejudging that you guys were working for Blechman, right, at the time?
Yeah, we were working for Blechman.
At Twin Lab.
Things were great back in the day, dude. Before I got the wide cut back messages in 2013.
Yeah, was his dad still alive?
Yeah, his dad was still alive.
Okay, and he owned Twin Lab at that.
And Steve was making power moves everywhere. He bought the magazine, and he couldn't advertise Twin Lab, which was #1 supplement company on Earth or in the United States at the time. Had to have been, or close to it.
He couldn't advertise it in the Weeder magazines because they were jealous that because he was doing too well.
So Joe hated, essentially, or disliked Steve Blechman, and Steve Blechman hated or disliked Joe Weider.
Right. Steve really loved Joe Weider, but he didn't like the fact that Joe didn't like him.
Yeah, Joe felt the heat. The heat was that he's got his own supplements, and here's a guy coming out with innovative products, Twin Lab.
Yeah, and give Blechman credit. They had some innovative stuff over there.
Smoking. Twin Lab in the heyday, dude, was like crazy. I mean, I can remember going out to MacArthur Airport?
Yeah,
Long Island. Mm-hmm. Twin Lab had a insane warehouse next to the airport.
Oh, they did. It was right there. I didn't realize.
Oh, it was like it was like an Amazon place. I mean, it was like 4 levels. They had, it was like going into like a giant Lowe's.
Wow.
And that's where they stored all the stuff. And the stuff was like, 18-wheelers picking the crap up and shipping it out.
Right.
So Steve buys MD. Yep, buys MD at the time. And then, he wants to have Miss Olympia, Mr. Olympia under contract. So he puts Haney under contract, right?
But not initially. It took him a couple of years to get Haney.
No. What year was Haney under contract? 90.
Just the last year. I
know. But which was that? 91? 91.
Well, 90 through 91 he was, yeah.
Okay, and who does he get for the only female under contract?
He only can get Laura, right?
Laura, because he thinks that this is,
Oh, he thought she was going to win the Olympia.
Oh, yeah, of course. So the Miss Olympia prejudging goes down, and I mean, I posted that picture. The condition is just, it's not an exaggeration to say, I posted it, said 29 years ago. I mean, no one's in that type of condition.
Yeah, the women certainly weren't at that time.
Who's in that type of condition right now in men?
Sure.
Not many people. So the prejudging's over, and me and Steve, and I was working with Bob Paris at the time, and Laura go to like a restaurant in Beverly Hills to celebrate the win.
No. The win after, even though the night show hadn't even happened yet.
Yeah. Well, we were pretty confident. Bob was like, slam dunk Paris.
Yeah.
And so Steve gets the wine list, and the wine list comes out, and the bottles of wine.
What's your best wine?
Yeah.
What's your best wine?
The best wine was the most expensive wine.
How much was the most expensive?
Oh, it was like $900.
Back in 80s, in the 80s.
Yeah, we're talking. Yeah,
in the 90s, early 90s, yeah.
So, Steve's just like, Bob, have a drink, and Bob's like, "Oh, Steve, I don't partake in drinking, but I'll toast with a glass of Diet Pepsi." And he's got that monotone, deep voice, and so off to the races. Steve and Laura like toast.
Laura likes to drink. You have to.
Oh yeah.
So
toast.
You don't drink, right?
No.
Right.
And it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're all just acting up.
Right, but aren't you getting a little nervous, like watching her drink pound all these wines down, knowing she's got to get on stage the next day, or you're thinking maybe she'll look better probably from this?
Yep. Before I know it, she is like completely passed out, and me and Bob. Carried her out to, I don't know how we get home, cab or something, or
right.
Certainly didn't drive. And we drove back to our apartment. And then like the next day she woke up and I think better than ever.
That's
but
funny.
it was a fun night because we thought we were celebrating a win. And
right.
Even
Blechman loves those dinners with Blechman after the shows were the best. I got to give him credit. He didn't really like to spend money except going out to dinner. Like you might have to fight with him for a contract and stuff like that, but if he took you out to dinner, there was nothing you couldn't get at the restaurant. There was no restrictions on anything. And he loved to order the expensive bottles of wine and whatever the appetizers. I mean, the meals would be thousands of dollars. Right?
Of course.
I mean,
they were.
I'm sure he wrote it on his business credit card. I'm sure he wasn't coming out of pocket with it, but personally, he liked the whole dinner experience. Blechman loved it. And you know what? When I worked there, he offered to take me out to dinner every night. I could have gone to steak dinner with him and had a bottle of wine every night with him. And if it was nowadays, I definitely would have done it. Back then, I had to go to the gym. I'm like, fuck this. I got to go. Steve, it's 8:00. I got to go to the gym.
Yeah, and you got to go ahead. You got to get in bed, right?
Well, I didn't even care about getting in bed. I wanted to go to. I wasn't
competing.
You got to
get home to go.
No, but I wasn't competing. But I was still obsessed with working out 5 days a week. So I couldn't go out to eat with him every night. But he would have taken me gladly, and of course paid every single time. So he would buy lunch. So very generous with food. He likes to break bread and sit and eat.
Well,
with people.
you know what? I'll tell you what. He he ordered that night for me because I didn't know what to get because the prices were too high. And
I'll get you the bone-in fillet, Chris. That's the best
New
cut.
York strip.
Oh, New
New York strip. It was the greatest thing I ever had.
Yeah.
My first time ever having. I was like 22 or something.
Yeah, and they probably ordered like salads and an appetizer.
Yeah. Laura ate all that stuff.
Chris, have some bread. We need the tryptophan. Yeah. Serotonin. You'll sleep better. Have a little bread.
Yeah, we had the four of us had a blast.
Yeah,
and then we went to I can't remember what happened the next. The next night. Yeah, the next.
What
night,
happens after Glenn stole the show? Did you guys still go out to dinner after that, or no?
No, we probably got the FedEx letter the next day that we.
He dropped her. Oh my God! Back in the can you believe the Miss Olympia was held alone? And it was popular, and people went there. Well, you know what it was? The guys loved to go to it because it was like, oh, at least they get to go watch a show, and they're not competing in it. You know.
You know what's crazy? The first time I think of it, I was in like this part of this battle of it was always like Linda versus Laura,
right?
And then it segued into Jay versus Ronnie.
Yeah, I know. But it was probably worse when it was Linda versus Laura because you were married to her. You know what I mean? So it's even more personal. It's like you're on stage.
They were bodybuilders.
Well, it's like but it was like when your spouse or your girlfriend is competing, okay, and you're helping them, especially, which you were, it's almost like you're up there. You know, they're representing you too. So it's like you take it personally when they don't do well or get screwed or whatever.
Yeah, now somebody could be in first place after a show and they could end up third after. I'm like, well, there's more shows.
It's funny. Every girl I ever dated got a pro card. And when they were with me usually, and I never got one, so I had to live vicariously through that. Countless pro cards, in the relationships I had. It's really pretty funny actually when you think about it. The only person who didn't get a pro card while I was with them was my wife now, Amanda, but she got a pro card. She won the USA in 05 overall.
05, God,
women's bodybuilding. She was a physique, size competitor, but she won the overall. She had really good shape. And, she got a pro card there. So that was the year Phil Heath won. Her and Phil Heath were in the NPC magazine. They were on the front cover there together.
Yeah, Phil was crazy. Phil was nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, no one even knew who he was.
I knew who he was.
I mean, they knew from the junior nationals, but really, that was his breakout year. The year before, no one knew who he was.
True.
I was just watching Trey Bennett posted a picture on his I think it was Facebook or Instagram of Cedric when he won the Junior USA.
Oh, yeah.
I was there.
You interviewed him.
It was the first interview I ever did.
I saw that interview. It's been up.
Trey came up to me and he said, "Dave, you got to interview this guy. He's going to be a star." I'm like, "Yeah, he's this guy Cedric." I'm like, "What does he do?" He's in the military. He's just a genetic freak. He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, "You think he's going to win the show?" He's like, "There's no one going to beat him at the show." Not only did no one beat him at that show, and I had interviewed him before the show, at the weigh-in, and then afterwards, after he won. But then he went on and won the nationals that year, right? I think it was the same year.
Yes. Yeah, and he was much better at the nationals.
Much better, but he still wasn't. He was just, you could tell he was raw still, you know what I mean? But he just had so many genetic tools, He just, standing backstage, he's the kind of guy you're like, yeah, this guy's not that good. And then under the lights, when he poses, you're like, where the fuck did all these lines and muscle come from? So, there's been a lot of guys, that crawled out of the woodwork. I love when that happens because it's like, when you think there's no great talents or new talents, some guy comes out of nowhere and shocks everyone. That's what makes the sport so exciting. I think the sport is so exciting when you get that. I mean, think about it. The history of our sport, there's been guys that have just crawled out from under a rock, and you're like, well, Jay was like that, really. I mean, no one really saw him coming.
No. I mean, he wasn't expected to be what he ended up being.
No, when he won that show in California, that's when he was the Excalibur. Did he win that one?
Oh, God, I should know it. He knows the exact date.
What did he wait, 2 years after junior team nationals to compete or something like that?
Yeah.
And he went out to California and he won that show, and then everyone was talking about him. He's going to win the national. He's going to win this. He's going to win that.
Yeah. I went out with him for that show. We stayed for 2 weeks in California. It was crazy.
Were you at Ed's house?
No, we were in hotels.
Wow. Is
We
that
just
before
went-
Ed knew him?
That was. Did Ed know? Yeah, Ed knew him when he came out to see the USA where Cormier beat Francois.
Okay.
And Cormier beat Francois, and Paul DeMeo, who I didn't help for that show, was third. But I always helped Paul since he was a teenager to that show.
What? How come you didn't work? Who worked with him to that show?
Joe McNeil, and all we heard of was that Chris doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's going to hook up with Joe, and you're going to see something that you've never seen before, and then Mike Francois stepped up and went from junior nationals getting smoked out of the top 15 to okay, I can win pro shows all within 12 months.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
I always tell people,
And so Jay came out for that show, and everyone from Ed, fell in love with him. This guy's going to be great. To Ted Dixon.
Oh, I'm sure Ted Dixon was all over.
Ask Jay about Ted Dixon.
I'd love to see how Jay handled Ted Dixon.
Oh, even at 19, he could handle anyone, dude. Come on. It's okay, guy. All right. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what Jay would do? Jay will let someone talk.
He would just listen because Ted Dixon was this gay guy out in California he had all these steroid connections, and he was pimping people out for pay stuff. But he was an intelligent guy. So if you sat down, he would grab every new guy that would come to California and walk into that gym. He'd be all over them, trying to get them to do everything from gay shit to just he would make you think that every person was gay in California. Right? He said, all guys are gay. I said, what are you talking about? All guys are gay. He goes, yeah, come on. He goes, And then he would list all the movie stars that were gay, Tom Cruise, John Travolta. He goes, oh, I know all these guys, Lyle Zato. He's throwing names around left and right. But I'm like Jay, I find people interesting. So I can sit there and talk. I talked to him. He must have talked to me for 6 hours, this guy. He thought he was going to play the Jedi mind tricks on me, but I just found him interesting because I all this crazy stuff, and I don't even know if what he was telling me was true, but it sounded true to me.
Yeah. Well, he does the NASCAR. He takes a little right.
Yeah.
He takes a little bit something that's true, and then does it right, changes it at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, Jay came out for what? That's when Jay, teen. What he had just won the teen national.
Right, but he didn't win the overall, so he was people would probably say, he can't.
I told him he was not going to win the overall. No, I told him you're going to go out there. He wanted me to come down to the teen nationals. I said, Jay, he came and stayed at my house in Maine, and I think he flew out of. Yeah, he probably flew out of where I lived. Mm-hmm. And I said, you're not going to win the overall. There's going to be someone there who's better than you with more muscle maturity. You've only been training 15 months or something.
Right.
There's going to be someone training there 5 years, and that person was Branch Warren. Yeah. What sideswiped me was when Jay called me and said, "Yeah, I won my class," and I said, "Yeah, just like I said." And he said, "Yeah, the guy who won had better legs than me." I'm like, "What? You know what I mean?" Yeah. Impossibility. He said, "Yeah, no, you'd be surprised. His legs look good." But Jay was like, "Yeah, it's good. I'm happy. Up next show, we got time to grow."
The funny thing is, Jay actually was a realist. Most guys would have been at that age. I got fucked. I was so much bigger than the guy. I blew him away.
No, Jay would recognize all his weaknesses.
Right.
That's one of his strengths.
Yeah.
He would recognize all his weaknesses so that he could improve on them.
Yeah, that's an important thing to be able to do. I was very critical of myself. I'm sure you were the same way. I would look at pictures. I told you I would want to throw up. After shows.
Yeah, of course.
But because I would see everything. I would see all my weaknesses.
Yeah.
And back then, I don't know why the pictures weren't as good. White guys looked terrible in pictures back then, right? You lost the three dimensionality of what the person looked like. That's why I always tell people. When we talk about Dorian, I'm like, you guys have no idea what this guy looked like in person. These pictures, he looks good in the pictures, but they don't capture what he really looked like. the pictures that capture what he really looked like was those black and whites he took 6 weeks before the Olympia.
I'll tell you what captures what he really looks like when at the me and Jay and Tom Prince sat in the third row or fourth row when you see it in real life from the 95 prejudging.
Mm-hmm.
And LeBron, no disrespect. Shawn Ray, these guys were like nothing compared to Dorian in 95. And yet you look back at the pictures and you're like, well, look, LeBron's holding his own on the back lat spread. No way in real life.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Dorian's back was ridiculous.
Even from the front, like the front lat spread and just side tricep and paper thin skin and crazy front lat spread, even his crab that year. You can go back and actually find a couple good pictures where he did the most muscular that year because he really doesn't do it much. He destroyed the lineup.
The reason he wouldn't do the most muscular crab shot was because he had torn his bicep in 94?
Yeah.
And there was like one of the heads was like short. And I think and so what he would do is he would pose around that so you would never really see it. The only shot you can see it on was the front double bicep a little bit. And if he hit a crab shot, you could see it on that. So you would hit the one with the hands together, you wouldn't see it. He was really very crafty about the way he worked around that shot because you couldn't see the missing bicep head except on that front double bicep, really. Because he would hit everything else from the other side.
No, you're right. He did.
Why they couldn't fix that thing, I have no idea. He probably just didn't want to miss the gym time, I bet you. I guarantee it.
I bet you're right. Didn't want to miss the downtime.
I'm sure the doctor said, it's going to be...
You can take 8 weeks off. Don't have time to take 8 weeks off.
He probably would have looked better if he would have taken the 8 weeks off. He probably would have grown, So, Dorian was an absolute freaking person. Nothing captures that. It's impossible. When I look at pictures of Ronnie actually was captured very well in pictures, his physique. And I don't know if that's just because he's black and the way, film picks up, darker skinned people. But there's some great pictures that Per Bernal took of him on stage, that Blechman had published in the magazine that were just unreal from 03. Remember when he was like 292 or something like that? Even when he in 98. The pictures are great. Him versus Flex. I actually think Flex looked better in pictures than he did in person. You go back and look at those 98 Olympia pictures, I think that Flex was better in the pictures than he was in real life, to be honest with you.
Did you go to the 98 Olympia? You must have. In New York.
I was there, yeah.
Yeah, you must have loved it, huh? The prejudging?
Oh my God, so exciting.
You out of your mind?
Yeah, it was great.
Where'd you sit?
I was with Metrics at the time, so I got in there for free, because I had the vendor pass. And I think me, I was huge at the time. I just walked right down to the front. I probably sat right in the front row, or whatever an open seat was. No one said anything to me. Everyone was like, "Oh, yeah, sit here." When you're a big freaky guy, they want you to sit. These fans want you to sit next to them because think about it. The people in the front are the VIP ticket holders. They're super fans of bodybuilding. They can't wait to sit. It was like they were like, "We'll sit on the floor. You sit in my seat."
Yeah.
It was Greg Kovacs and I sat together. I remember we were watching. We were like, "Holy shit! Look at fucking Ronnie's fucking glutes." Remember when he pulled his trunks up?
Oh yeah, it was phenomenal.
He hiked. No one was allowed to hike up their posing trunks except Ronnie Coleman in the history of the sport. He hiked them up. He was striated glutes right to his fucking asshole.
Yeah.
That's when Flex I knew was done.
Yeah.
And it was a great prejudge. It was a long prejudge. They made those guys fucking work.
Well, they wanted to pick the winner.
But back in the day, they made the guys almost die on stage. They didn't give them a break.
Prejudging would go for a long time. They do the quarter turns back then, right?
Right. Well, then you remember, right? Wayne DeMilio would call the poses out from the podium, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, no, he'd call them out. I don't know where he would sit.
Or would he sit at the judges' table?
I think he would sit at the judges' table.
Yeah. He was like the head judge, I think.
Yeah.
It was the same other judges, but I think Wayne was the head judge. Or so it seemed. I always heard his voice calling the poses out.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal year. Start of a big run for Ronnie.
That was an interesting year, too, because I was working for Metrex. Metrex had just made a deal with the guy who owned Peak Training Journal, Steve Colescott, and they were going to make that the Metrex magazine. And then they wound up getting into a fight right after that, and it never materialized. But they had put me on.
That was a good magazine.
Yeah, they had put me on the cover. I was on the cover, and I was at the booth signing magazines and promoting Metrex. And Greg Kovacs was like around the corner at the Muscle Tech booth. They had the the theater at the Madison Square Garden is where they held it. And in the lobby, they had all the booths set up throughout the lobby. So if you wanted to go to the expo was in the lobby of the auditorium. So you every little nook and turn you would take, there would be another supplement company booth set up there. Big booths too. And I remember Greg was sitting there, and I'm like, and I was very good friends with Greg, and I'm like, when I ran into him, I'm like, holy shit, Greg, what the fuck do you weigh? He was like 420.
Yeah.
420 pounds. He was so big. He was so uncomfortable. He was profusely sweating. I didn't think he was going to, I thought he was going to die that weekend, to be honest with you. I had never seen him that big.
Well, you know what's so funny is when Francois, imagine Jay goes down to the T National and says, yeah, our kid down here beat me because he had better legs. Well, Francois wins the Nationals, and I'm like pulling the J with him. We got the Olympia, Jay. I was like a rah, 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 rah.
Yeah.
Mike, we got it for sure. Actually, Mike's dream, which he did fulfill, was to win the Arnold Classic because he was from Columbus, Ohio.
Sure.
And on his birthday, he won it on his birthday, and that was like a pre-planned out, like long. It was a bizarre, like when he won the Nationals, he immediately. I was talking like Olympia. He said, no. I want to win the Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
I want to win the Arnold.
Right.
On my birthday, which he ended up doing, but
because it was always held around the same time, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought Mike was big, round, thick, and he's freaky. He went up to Canada, and I remember him calling me on my phone, my landline phone, right?
Yeah.
He'd call, check in. He said, "God, there's this guy up here. He's 400 pounds." I'm like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" 400? Because Mike was Mike was big.
Yeah.
And it was Kovacs.
Yeah, no one had ever seen anything like him. He was unbelievable. Size, the mass he had on his body. He just got too big. You would think that, totally. He was so obsessed with people telling him you got to fill out your frame that he overfilled it. He overfilled it. Because he had good symmetry, actually. If you look
great
at
symmetry.
When he turned pro, he was actually had a small waist. He had a good tape. He was so wide that his taper was like a J taper. It was ridiculous, and then he just got too big, and he couldn't function. He couldn't even, as Ed Connors would say, he couldn't even go to the bathroom without his wife going in there to wipe his ass. I mean, he was almost like a non-functional human being, like with a handicap. That you just wanted to look at him because he was so freaking massive. You couldn't believe what you were seeing.
Yeah, no, I know he was crazy.
And you know what the funny thing is? That's all he wanted to ever achieve. I mean, of course, in his mind, he wanted to be Mr. Olympia. Everyone wants to be Mr. Olympia. But he really was, his goal was to be the biggest bodybuilder. And no one will ever beat that. There's not going to be any guy that's ever bigger than that. I just don't believe it. I don't believe anyone would ever push their body to that extreme to get that big. And
how much was he eating a day, Dave?
He was eating like probably like 8 or 10 times a day. I stayed at his house. I told you this. It seemed like every hour his wife was giving him a shake to drink or a meal. Like, he didn't have to even think. She just had everything prepared. They were like a team. And he would turn around and we would be like out on his balcony just bullshitting, and she'd come out with a shake. I'm like, Kim, we just ate it felt like 10 minutes ago. She's like, no, it's been an hour. Craig's got to have this. He's got to have 100 grams of protein.
So how much protein would he eat a day?
He was probably eating 800 grams of protein a day, I would think, right? Double his body weight.
I don't know. What was causing him to grow? I know it was the heavy weight because he could lift like crazy.
But he was a genetic freak too. He had the genetics to do that. It wasn't me getting that big. I mean, his frame was enormous. And he was just a powerful guy, and he responded. But they lived the bodybuilding lifestyle. I mean, like I said, there was never an hour went by where there wasn't a meal on the table or a shake in his hand. And when they would travel, Kim, would make these promoters provide ridiculous amounts of everything to them. So they had everything they needed all the time. He never missed a meal. He never missed a workout. He never, nothing. It was perfect, you know. They had all the, you know, I don't really know the dosages he was using because I'm sure he was probably taking way more than he was admitting he was taking. But probably by today's standards, it wouldn't be that much, you know, because guys take ridiculous amounts of stuff down nowadays. He just was a genetic freak, you know. The problem is, you know, and the funny thing was, during his career, he was fine. You know, he never really had any. I mean, aside, he was always sick. He always had like a cold and respiratory infection. Because I just think he was just I think he was in bad cardiovascular shape because he didn't move around a lot. You know how people like in hospital beds get like pneumonia a lot because they can't move. You got to move to get all the fluids moving out in your body. I think he was just so stagnant. You know, but aside from that, you know, he didn't have any, like, his blood work was okay. You know, I saw it. He didn't have like anything remarkable wrong with him. He didn't have high blood pressure. But later in life, you know, he had I guess his heart was damaged in some sense, and the valve needed to be replaced. And that's what he was getting. You know, he got the valve replaced. And
did he get it? Did he get it replaced?
He got it replaced. He called me up, he's like, "Oh, you didn't call me." I said, "I didn't even know you were out of surgery yet." He's like, "Oh, yeah, it was yesterday, 2 days ago." I'm like, "Well, how do you feel?" He's like, "Oh, I'm good. You know, he's like, he goes, the moment when I woke up, because I felt better, like, that day than I did when I went in. Because I guess he was having, like, symptoms of, like, just, you know, there was too much regurg going on. He was out of breath, short of breath. So, you know, because he was getting backflow in the heart. You know, the valve it was incompetent. It got to the point where it just wasn't doing its job. So he said he felt great. I said, "Oh, excellent." So I said, "I'll talk to you on Tuesday," because I forget what I was doing on Monday. And then I think his ex-wife called me and told me. I said, "What? I just talked to him."
Uh-huh.
He dropped in his house, I guess, and just never recovered. I don't know. Maybe he had a massive heart attack. I don't know what. I still to this day don't know what the official cause of death was, other than a heart attack, or what caused it, or if they even knew what caused it. I guess there's always that percentage mortality after an operation like that, you know, things that can go wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he got a clot or something like that, and that's it. We lost a great one. His whole existence really centered around bodybuilding, though, and I think once he stopped competing, he was getting very depressed, and he wasn't really into it. And I had brought him back. He wrote a column for RxMuscle for, I think, 2 years, and then I would get him on the radio every once in a while. I should pull up some of those old radio. I'd make him imitate Nasser and tell Nasser stories. He was very funny. I've said this before. I don't want people to think I'm losing my mind. I don't remember, but I've told this before. Kovacs was hysterically funny. Like, if you were in a room with him, you would laugh your ass off. I mean, he just was very funny. He was a great imitator of people too. He can imitate Nasser way better than me. He can imitate Craig Titus. He had a way of hearing. He heard the person's voice, and he can just duplicate it. It was.
You have him on tape imitating Titus?
I don't know about that, Titus, but I definitely have him imitating Nasser on I have to go back and look at an old radio show. Okay. I'll play a clip next week for you if you remind me. I'll find it. He was this funny guy, and you know what? He was actually a really good trainer. He started training people. He was getting guys ready for shows. He would get guys shredded. He knew his science. He knew how to eat and you know, diet and get in shape and everything like that. He couldn't really apply it for himself because he was always worried about being too big. But I've seen him get other guys in really good shape. I mean, he could have been one of the top trainers, you know, had he not died.
I wonder if he ever used the word flat.
He always thought he was flat.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Well, you know, he worked with Chad, and Chad would over-diuretic him to death, you know, which would almost kill him every single time. He was the only guy I knew that was always almost dying on diuretics. And I would always go to his room, like at the Arnold, whatever, a couple shows. He didn't compete that often. And he'd be like, what do you think I should do? I'm cramping. I'm this and that. I'm like, Greg, you're asking me to do damage control. I'm not doing your diet. Talk to fucking Chad, you know. But, you know, because Chad, you know, most of those guys would hold ridiculous amounts of water. He would hold water, but you didn't need to give him a lot to get rid of the water. His body responded really, really fast, you know. So then he was nervous on stage, and he would like sweat profusely on stage because he was such a
nerve to kill him.
Yeah. You know guys like that. They just their whole body falls apart, right?
Yeah.
Like 20 minutes before they get up on stage. You see him in the hotel room, and you're like, oh, the guy looks pretty fucking good. gets on stage, the water starts pouring down their body, right? You've seen those people that do that.
I've seen it.
I think what's happening a lot of times is they get an adrenaline rush, and then that drops blood sugar, and then they go low blood sugar. When you get low blood sugar, that cold sweat is the worst.
The worst, yeah.
You can't get rid of it either.
Totally agree.
It's one of the biggest problems people have, and that's why I tell people don't eat sugar backstage. I see these guys with like candy bars and all kinds of like sugary snacks. I'm like, you know what? You haven't had it the whole diet. You didn't carb up on it. Why are you eating it now?
Yeah, I can't remember people who the names who Bob Gruskin had worked with, but I remember Bob. I was a kid, like seeing someone, like Dave Palumbo. How's Dave look? Oh, he's shredded.
Right.
Say, Bob, how'd Dave do? 19th. I'm like, what? He got nervous. I'm like, what do you mean nervous?
There's a lot of mental cases out there. I'm telling you.
He got nervous and held water. I mean, how can you? What's he holding?
I think Cedric gets nervous out there. I think that's his problem.
He's admitted that he gets nervous.
Yeah, I think that screws him up. Because
I mean, he's gone over that over and over. That nerves get the best of him.
So then Greg, I think, was trying to smoke pot, like to calm himself down.
Oh, yeah.
Never. But if you don't smoke pot on a regular basis, that also can screw you up.
You're just a high nervous wreck.
Yeah. No, you get paranoid. Pot causes paranoia if you're not used to
it. Then he's worried. Yeah.
The crazy things us bodybuilders do, right? Just to look good.
Yeah.
So anyway. Also, last bit of news, Lee Priest texted me. He's now the new president of the NAB organization in Australia. How that came about, I have absolutely no idea. But
good. We should bomb him next. Why?
I don't know. I don't know why he did it. He's been because whenever Lee is too successful, he's got to do something that counteracts it. Tell
him there's still time to rescind it.
Yeah.
And to exercise a mea culpa or whatever it's called.
Yeah, he didn't like run for office. I think they just elected him, and maybe he feels obligated. I don't know.
He should unobligate himself.
I know. I don't know what's wrong with him. He's just been doing so good. Everyone really he's been making a great comeback. He's making good money now. He always makes these weird decisions, right when he's doing the best, and he's really just about to make a big leap into the next stage of his career. But I'll get him on Iron Rage this week. I'm going to ask him what the hell's going on with that. All right, but that's it. Hopefully everyone enjoyed our little historical gallivant through the bodybuilding world from the 80s all the way up to the present. Is there anything relevant happening right now in bodybuilding, like in the present day?
Only gossip.
You sent me some good pictures of Chris sent me these pictures of Sergio Oliva Jr., who's doing the Arnold, obviously, and I think they're Phil Heath because they look a lot alike.
It's funny. You said, where'd you get these?
Especially in the off season, they look alike. So I'm looking at these pictures. I'm like, where the fuck did you get these? And then I'm like, wait a minute, these aren't Phil. Because I was like, holy shit, Phil's fucking shredded. What the fuck is he doing, the Arnold or something like that? And I'm like, wait. And then I realized it's not Phil. It's actually Sergio.
They look alike.
They look a lot alike. But Sergio looks good. He's very lean already. He's got striated glutes.
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
He's big. He's hard. I mean, he's a lot better than he's been.
Yeah. Yeah, at least you're not going to be playing catch-up the last 8 weeks.
Not at all.
Can you believe it? What is it, 8 weeks now into the show?
Seven.
How the fuck did that happen so fast?
Well, before 2021. And Logan is on his 5th birthday going to kindergarten.
That's right.
That's the best age. 4 and 5 is the best age.
Yeah. No, you're right. He loves school. I told him, I keep saying to my wife, I'm like, wait till he has to do homework. He won't love school anymore.
They don't give it anymore.
Oh, they don't give homework anymore? They
don't pound you with homework anymore. My kids, I told you, my kids were homeschooled. So they generally understand what a rigorous program is. Mm. But in public, they just don't give tons of homework.
Wow. Maybe I hated homework.
I hated homework. I was
especially when you're on sports, because it's.
And I was disciplined enough that I would never look at my muscle builder, not Muscle and Fitness, before I finished my homework.
There you go.
That
was your treat. That was your treat.
Yeah, I couldn't. Well, because I knew that I knew. Okay, if I just ace everything, all my homework. Then I can jump into the bed with the muscle builder and like study
Read all
Bible.
night. Yeah, right, exactly.
Be up to 3 a.m. My mother would come in and turn the light on.
What are you doing up?
Yeah. I say, Bertle Fox, Mom, should have placed higher in this 83 Olympia.
And isn't it funny that you took everything that those writers in those magazines said as like the gospel? Like it was like
Rick Wayne would do the Olympia report, and it would be like 40 to 50 pages of, it would be a
analysis.
Novel.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't even be an analysis. He'd take you back, like the Olympia would be, like 82 Olympia I'd be reading about.
Mm.
Who won in 82? I don't even know. 80 was Arnold. 81
Dickerson.
was Franco.
No, Dickerson. Yeah,
Dickerson. And he'd go back to upper lessons in January when he'd take you back to Chris Dickerson's opera lessons. That would be the segue into like the Olympia report.
Right.
And it would, it'd be 4 or 5 pages of what Chris Dickerson was doing in January and his relationships with people. And,
that's great.
I don't know if you ever read Rick Wayne, but I think...
No, I didn't, but because it was before my time. But you actually got an idea of who the person was. You probably knew more about the person when you met them than they even knew about themselves, because you read it so many times, the article.
Yeah, he gave intricate detail on what was going on. People's mindsets, their relationships, their stresses. And
well, guys... Yeah.
Yep, we're ready.
Yeah, it's like 3 a.m. No, it's pretty close. Just want to remind people, guys, that the Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course on Saturday, January 25th in Cape Coral, Florida. We're running out of spots, so if you guys want to sign up for that course, go to DavePalumbo.com and do it today because we only have like 2 seats left. So I don't want anyone to say I didn't give you the opportunity to sign up. So that's January 25th. It's a good excuse to get out of the cold Northeast over there and come down to sunny Florida. It was 88 degrees today. Oh, I forgot to tell you my story about running out of water. I always run out of water when I'm in a shower at 3 a.m. My house runs out of water. Like the water.
What do you have, a well?
Yeah, we have a well. Yeah, so the pump broke last night. The 3 days before that, I was in the shower and it ran out, and because the sprinkler guy had come to fix the sprinklers and he turned the water off, and he forgot to turn it back on.
Mm-hmm. So it's twice in 1 week.
Yeah, twice in 1 week. Exactly. I thought they were going to have to dig the well deeper because someone was telling me, "Oh, you probably ran out of water. The aquifers are low." I'm like, "What? What do you mean run out of water?" Luckily, that wasn't the case. It was just an $1,800 pump that needed to be replaced on a Sunday. I had to pay Sunday rates.
Of course.
So, but I was happy to pay it. I was like, I'll do anything to get my water back on the house. It's amazing. Electricity and water are 2 things that you take for granted in your house.
I told you, I didn't know. Did I tell you? Maybe I did last week when I came back from Miami. I went to start my car and it didn't work.
Yeah, that was a crazy stuff.
The battery wouldn't work. And the AAA guy came and I said, it's just insane what we take for granted. I was so pissed about the battery not working, but it's like lights in your house. If they don't work, you know what I mean?
Wait till computers run our whole life, and then if that breaks down,
what I always worry about? I always worry about one of my, turning on my computer and it doesn't work, and then calling you and saying, "Chris, you didn't hear on the news? There's no internet anymore."
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
blown up somewhere.
Yeah,
where it's been damaged, and you try to get gas at 7-Eleven, put your credit card in, and you can't even use that.
We're becoming very, very dependent on artificial intelligence, and pretty soon we're not going to even be able to do anything ourselves. We'll have robots doing everything. They'll have to let the robots into the Mr. Olympia, right? Like they have all the transgenders. It'll have to be we'll have R2D2 is up on the Olympia stage. He made the final cut.
Yeah, he's peeled.
Yeah, yeah, but isn't that cheating? Nope. Equal rights. Everyone wants equal rights.
You have to have him on the RX. You have to have Lee Priest representing NAB, I guess now, on Iron Debate with Shawn Ray, seeing if R2D2, if it's
legitimate,
illegal or illegitimate to have him in the Olympia.
Yeah. Or it might be discrimination to keep him out of the Olympia. All right. On that note, guys, remember, till next week, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.